2020, you were certainly a memorable year, for better or for worse. Funny enough, this was going to be a top 10 games I played in 2020, but even kind of games I've played that came out in past years, it still wasn't a really satisfying list. Last year was just so busy and hectic I didn't have that much time for gaming. So instead, I've decided to focus on the future. And while I'm sure this year's going to come with its own share of issues, I'm also sure there will be plenty to be hopeful about and look forward to. Is that incredibly cheesy to say? You bet, but it makes me feel better about the future, so here are the top 10 pieces of media that I'm looking forward to this year. Whether it's for genuine excitement or just so stupid that I can't help but be excited, this is my list. Oh, and if you're wondering why this is only going to be in pictures instead of actual video, my channel is way too small to get a copyright strike and I'm dealing with a lot of big companies in this, so by all means, feel free to direct your complaints to the following companies. Though I suppose I could just use game footage of stuff that's close enough to what I'm talking about. That seems more fun. I think I will do that. With that said, let's begin. So, I'm sure this movie isn't going to be particularly good. However, just like the first movie, I'm sure it's going to be lots of fun. Eddie and Venom's interaction in the first movie were hilarious, and Hardy's moments of, let's say, expressing himself were a trip. I've yet to meet a single person who didn't have a fun time watching this movie. Even the fetish people got a scene for them. Admittedly, it does still sting that we're getting a Venom Carnage story without Spider-Man, and that it probably won't go into any of the deeper moments of Eddie's character. But shit, sometimes I just like my movies to give me a good time with friends, and it looks like it's gonna offer me that. Though, and please Sony, have the balls to actually make this movie rated R, or at least have an unrated cut in a Blu-ray release. Oh, and have the steelbook look just as nice as the first one. If by this point you're wondering where all the games are, spoiler alert, this list is about 80% movies and TV shows, and we'll get to why that is in the honorable mentions, but for now, this is probably the strangest pick for me on the entire list, since, hell, I didn't even like the first Matrix movie. But at the same time, I can't help but be at least a bit curious. It's been 18 years since the last one, which ended on a bit of a cliffhanger regarding our main character, Neo, of course played by Keanu Reeves, which, yeah, I'm super curious to see where they go with this. Beyond the fact that the what the fuck? The Wachowskis have had nearly 2 decades to think about what they want to do with this film if they ever had the chance to make it. Not only that, we also get to see how they'll utilize the new technology and special effects, and if they're smart, they'll focus less on the overblown metaphors and just let Keanu do his thing. Honestly, just give him a baseline of a script and let him go nuts with it. People will love it. And while I do prefer his other action trilogy with a fourth on the way, I'd be crazy to not see what they're gonna do with this, even if it ends up being a high budget mess. Oh hey, kinda like the other one Keanu's attached to. So my feelings on the Kaiju cinematic universe have been a bit mixed. Like many people, I was pretty meh about the 2014 American reboot of Godzilla, except for the 10 minutes he was actually in it, which were awesome. But otherwise, human talk and broken promises. Ooh. The sequel was kinda better, I guess, but really I still felt a bit ripped off. Especially the ending fight seemed, well, not bad, but just not super satisfying. Oh, and once again, the humans sucked, especially the mom character, like literally the worst person in the movie. The actress is fine, the character was shit. Skull Island for the most part was actually pretty solid. The actors were good, the fight scenes were great, solid movie. So now the time has finally come for them to duke it out, and as always, when it comes to these movies, I really don't give a shit about the story. No one cares about the story. We just want to see 2 big monsters beat the shit out of each other. Is that so much to ask? And I realize that asking for a 2.5-hour movie of 2 monsters kicking the absolute shit out of each other is unrealistic. But can I at least have 45 minutes of monster chases and ass whooping and like an hour of human stuff? Maybe have them both take on Mecha King Ghidorah at the end, and the humans just go, ah. Like I said, the actors do a fine job, but they are not what the people are here to see with this. I understand nothing about this show, and that is honestly the best thing about this series. Marvel has gained the reputation of giving audiences the same movie with a different paint job for a few years now, and sadly, I'm inclined to agree. It's not to say that they're bad movies, but for the most part, once you've seen one, you've seen more or less all of them. Which honestly isn't the worst for like 1 or 2 movies, but when it's a 20+ movie series, it starts to get a bit stale. This looks not only different from anything Marvel, but different from most TV shows out there. Is it going to be good? Who knows? Is it going to be interesting? God, I hope so. With the recent end of the Infinity War saga, I've sort of fallen off the Marvel bandwagon. I'd love for something fresh to pull me back in, but only time will tell. Finally, a video game makes the list, but probably not the one you want. We'll get to those later. Honestly, I'm a bit embarrassed to say that my reasons for being excited for this one are a bit lacking compared to the others. It just looks cool. Between the powers and the mid-70s stylization, oh, and how missions can play out in different ways, all that shit, it's awesome. I don't really have much else to say, I'm just super excited for this. Plus, new IPs are always nice, and new neat friends, especially in this list of sequels. Speaking of... And here's the second and last game that makes my official list. Some of you might know Justice from my streams. Well, he has been constantly telling me how fantastic the 2018 reboot of the series is and how he wants me to play it. And from what I've seen of the game and the series as a whole, it just looks fantastic. Keyword though, looks. My problem lies in that I've never actually played any God of War game. I've always wanted to, but never really got the chance. Well, after seeing so much praise for the story, the gameplay, and personal recommendations, I'm finally giving in and seeing what all the hype is about. This year, my personal mission is to get through all of the God of War games in time for the new one, and from the looks of the 2018 reboot, it looks exactly right up my alley, and I can't wait. So let's talk about this Frankenstein's monster turned possible gold mine. Before the original Suicide Squad movie even came out, it was already greenlit for a sequel, and after the not very good reviews of the original Suicide Squad movie, DC and WB were left wondering what the hell they were gonna do. Because, spoiler alert, greenlighting a sequel before a movie comes out is a terrible idea. I figured you would notice, but apparently that company doesn't, so who knows? The director of the original movie left to go work on Gotham City Sirens, which is on pause forever, so Next thing we know, Will Smith is saying he's gonna go pick up some milk, and we've gone through like 15 different directors, including Mel Gibson. No one knows what the hell is going on anymore, but in a distance, a nuke is dropped. James Gunn, director and writer of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, is fired from Disney for tweets he made a couple years back. And DC snatches that man up immediately, literally gives him his pick of what to direct next, including the next Superman film, which... fuck, imagine being in that timeline. But out of all his options, he chooses Suicide Squad. Now John Cena is in it as douchey Captain America, the best character King Shark is in, and they've replaced Will Smith with Idris Elba, who is playing Bloodsport, a man whose backstory literally includes shooting Superman with a kryptonite bullet at the start of the film. Bro, I have no idea what the hell is going on in this movie, but you can be damn sure I'm excited. Even if it's just edgier Guardians of the Galaxy, I'll take it. So, I rarely mention anime in my videos, specifically because the online anime community continues to both confuse and terrify me. Not only that, in the last few years, I've just sort of stepped away from most anime as a whole. But last year, I was officially introduced to Neon Genesis Evangelion, and I have very mixed feelings about that. And to anyone who knows about Eva, you know exactly what I mean by that. If I ever do a review of the series and the movies, I'll go into more detail, but this series is equal parts fascinating and infuriating with a creator that is passionate about it, but has also kind of gotten screwed over by things out of his control while working on it. This resulted in an ending that was hard to understand for some people, a movie that was slightly easier to understand but sort of ruined a bit of the series for me, and a reboot series of movies which most people agree aren't as good and some people think is a full-on middle finger to the fanbase. Again, a lot to take in. If I ever make a review, we'll talk about it. Though when that does happen, be prepared for another slideshow or for another channel that just keeps this channel safe. Back to the point, finally after years of waiting, the conclusion to the series of movies, and supposedly the series as a whole, is finally here. And if I'm honest, I just want the series to be over with and the series creator to move on with his life. Don't get me wrong, I'm interested to see how this ends, and I'm sure it will be visually stunning and thought-provoking, but it just feels like he's put so much time and effort into a series he's burnt out by. He directed that Godzilla reboot a few years back, let him work on that. Let Eva be dormant for a bit, and when it gets rebooted again, honestly, let someone else handle it. Your legacy is made, man, you did good. Just let it happen. So, let's be clear from the get-go on this one. This one is so high not because of what it is, but because of what it represents. Let's go back a few years. Man of Steel was released and was... okay. Batman v Superman came out and the jokes still have not stopped. Suicide Squad happened and a soft reboot of it is literally on this list. Wonder Woman happens and it's pretty okay, but the ending is still stupid. Otherwise, decent. All of these movies, except Wonder Woman, being seen as either meh or trash by most of the general public. But there's a group of people that believe that all these movies were either amazing or were gonna pay off beautifully with the movie teased by that one stupid scene from BVS. Justice League is upon us, but midway through, Zack goes through a family tragedy and has to leave production on a movie he's been building up to. And so his movie is given to Joss Whedon, officially giving us the Justice League. Quote by him, not by me. It's alright. Didn't get shit at the box office, but not terrible. But that's not good enough. That group of Snyder defenders know that there's a true version of the film, and so begins the most famous fan campaign for a piece of media in recent time. The Snyder Cut was a myth. Sure, there were a few cut scenes seen in the trailer and randomly a color change from Dark Knight to orange, but there's no way it could be real. Well, whether the Snyder Cut was always out there in the form of unused footage, or if all the support of the movie gave us our self-fulfilling prophecy, in a stream viewing of Man of Steel, Zack Snyder gave the announcement, and soon after, one of the best trailers I have ever seen, except for the aspect ratio, that's weird, but that doesn't matter, comes out. It actually exists. It's real. It's coming out, and given Zack's track record, there is no guarantee it's going to be good. Look, I want this to succeed, but I'm also not going to pretend the previous movies didn't happen. But whether it's good or bad, even that doesn't matter that much. The fact that this exists is more than enough. This is one of the most expensive movies of all time that was a box office bomb, and it's getting a second chance. A second chance given via the support of hundreds of thousands of fans after the original director was screwed out of his movie just so that producers can get their bonuses. And for that, it deserves to be this high up. Whether this movie is great, whether it ends up being a miniseries, whether it ends up branching off from wherever the hell the DCEU is going now into its own universe, please, I can't wait to see what this ends up giving us. So, before we get to our number 1, honorable mentions, and let's just get this out of the way. Hitman 3, Persona 5 Strikers, Bravely Default 2, Harvest Moon 1 World, Monster Hunter Rise, Guilty Gear Strive, Nier Replicant version 1.224644871139, etc. Bendy the Dark Revival, Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, Halo Infinite, Hello Neighbor 2, No More Heroes 3, Oddworld Soulstorm, The Outlast Trials, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Resident Evil Village, Sam & Max This Time It's Virtual, Shin Megami Tensei 5, and especially Horizon Forbidden West. I'm sure these games are gonna be great, but either I haven't played their series or I have no idea when they're coming out, and thus, with good conscience, can't include them in the list. The only one that's getting a pass is God of War, and that's purely out of personal recommendation and previous intent to play it regardless. Otherwise, this year will be full of me playing as many of these games as possible to get in on the hype. Till then, I'm good, thank you. Also, let it be said that if Elden Ring and Spider-Man 2 were confirmed for this year, they'd be topping the list. On to the other honorable mentions. Black Widow, we should have come out a long time ago, but I'm glad it is. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Captain America had my favorite trilogy in the MCU, so I'm hoping this series acts like a good bridge. Cobra Kai Season 3. Literally watching this as I write the script. I'm hooked. The Kingsman. The previous movies were fun, but I don't really like prequels that much. Spiral. Me and my friends just want to see more interesting traps, and I just want to see Chris Rock do more serious shit. Ghostbusters Afterlife. Well, the first time they tried to bring this series back from the dead, it didn't really work. Let's go for round 2. Luca. It's a Pixar movie. Uncharted, Resident Evil, and Mortal Kombat. Come on, good video game adaptation. Come on, good video game adaptation. Space Jam 2. Remember that just so stupid I can't help but be excited line? Well, here we are. And that about wraps things up. So, on to our number 1. Let me recount a tale to you guys. When I was but a wee lad, Spider-Man was the superhero. I didn't give a shit about Batman, Superman, Iron Man, Wonder Woman, didn't know who any of these guys were. There was just Spider-Man. The original Raimi trilogy were some of my favorite movies, silliness and all. So when I saw the trailer for a new Spider-Man, that shit pissed me off. But I gave it a chance. The results were a bit mixed. There were some good moments, but for the most part it didn't compete with the original movies. And then the Spider-Man deal with Marvel happened and we got the new Spider-Man with Tom Holland. I liked him when he was Spider-Man. I liked him when he was Peter Parker. What I didn't like when he was just superpowered Robin to the MCU's Batman. And I found myself missing the good old days. Even throughout my playthrough of Spider-Man, I always rocked the Raimi outfit. Always wishing for the next story that me, the fans, and the director got screwed out of. And now we have Spider-Man 3. The MCU Spider-Man 3. Doc Ock, Electro, so many things from the past coming together. Even Daredevil from the Netflix TV show is apparently coming back. Obviously, with so many rumors, it's hard to know what's real and what's not. Plus, the idea of so much being stuffed in this one movie, like, unless it ends up being a miniseries, is gonna end up being completely overblown. But if this movie can give me the closure I wanted for so many years, I'll be satisfied. And if it can give me even more than that beyond it, then it more than earns its place at the top of my list. Thank you so much for watching, enjoy your new year, and please, to the people who are working on these projects, don't fuck it up.